their thinking. Delusions are the most extreme deviation in thought content. They are defined as fixed false beliefs that are maintained despite objective evidence and logical argument to the contrary. Furthermore, the belief is not one ordinarily shared by others who have similar educational or sociocultural backgrounds. Let me repeat some words here. They are the most extreme deviation in thought. They are defined as fixed false beliefs that are maintained despite objective evidence and logical argument to the contrary. Furthermore, the belief is not one ordinarily shared by others who have similar educational or sociocultural backgrounds. Now, they tell us that our belief in God is delusionary, that our faith in God is that one of a delusion. So let me start off positioning two possibilities and then move to the argument for existence from God and ultimately show why it is the Christ who reveals to us that which is true, which is what the atheists are really resisting. Many, many years ago, when I was at university and doing my studies at graduate work, the biggest named atheist then was Anthony Flew. At that time, we had to read everything Anthony Flew had written. Now, of late, of course, Anthony Flew has disavowed his atheism and become a modified theist. He calls himself a deist. The irony of this is, had he changed his mind 30 years ago, it would have saved me an awful lot of reading, an awful lot of studies. Now, he is writing against Dawkins. He's telling us that Dawkins has not done his homework philosophically. But Anthony Flew, 40 years ago, wrote this. He would be embarrassed by it now, but this is what he said. Once upon a time, two explorers came upon a clearing in the jungle. In the clearing were growing many flowers and many weeds. One explorer says, some gardener must tend this plot. So they pitched their tents and set a watch. No gardener is ever seen. But perhaps, says somebody, there is an invisible gardener. So they set up a barbed wire fence. They electrify it. They patrol it with bloodhounds. For they remember about H.G. Wells and the Invisible Man. But no shrieks ever suggest that some intruder has received a shock. No movements of the wire ever betray an invisible climber. The bloodhounds never give cry, yet still the believer is not convinced. But there is a gardener, I'm telling you, there is a gardener. He's invisible, intangible, insensible to electric shocks. A gardener who has no scent and makes no sound. But there is a gardener. This gardener comes secretly to look after the garden which he loves. At last the skeptic despairs. But what remains of your original assertion? How just does this, what you call an invisible, intangible, eternally elusive gardener, differ from an imaginary gardener or even from no gardener at all? See what he's saying? There's the question. How does what you call an invisible, intangible, eternally elusive gardener differ from an imaginary gardener or even from no gardener at all? That was the question Flew posed 4 decades ago. Now, what about the existence of God? See, these are the 2 points the atheists keep making. We can't devein them, but I want to at least tackle them in brief. The first argument that they make is that there's really no denotative proof for God. If Luigi made my pizza, I can point to Luigi and say, Luigi made my pizza. But if you say God made this world, point me to God. Show me God. And so Berlinski takes on Sam Harris. This is brilliant. Sam Harris argues that to believe that God exists is to believe that I stand in some relation to his existence, such that his existence itself is the reason for my belief. This sounds very much as if belief in God could only be justified if God were to call attention to himself, conspicuously waving a finger at us, say by dramatically waggling that finger or that hand. But if this is so, then by parity of reasoning, says Berlinski, one might argue that belief in neutrinos, that neutrinos have mass, is to believe that I stand in some relation to their mass, such that their mass is itself the reason for my belief. But how does a neutrino waggle its finger? A neutrino by itself cannot function as a reason for my belief. It is a subatomic particle, for heaven's sake. What I believe is a proposition of an abstract entity that neutrinos have mass. How could a subatomic particle enter into a relationship with the object of my belief? But neither can a neutrino be the cause of my belief. I have, after all, never seen a neutrino. Not one of my neutrinos has ever gotten me to believe in it. The neutrino, together with almost everything else, lies at the end of an immense inferential trail, a complicated set of judgments. Hear what he said? It lies at the end of a trail of complicated sets of judgments. I believe what I do on the basis of the fundamental laws of physics and congeries of computational schemes, algorithms, specialized programming languages, techniques for numerical integration, huge canned programs, computer graphics, interpolation methods, nifty shortcuts, and the best efforts by mathematicians and physicists to convert the data of various experiments into coherent patterns, artfully revealing symmetries and continuous narratives. The neutrino has nothing to do with it. Do you know what he's saying? You're telling me you'll only believe in God in such a way if he actually waggles his finger at you. On that basis, I would never believe in a neutrino either. He says it takes all of science's research, all of the capacity of the mind, all of the data, all of the human experience. And so what I want to bring to you as I tie this together is, how do we come to this knowledge of God? And what is it that Jesus actually says about himself? If you take any physical quantity in this universe, and section it, you will end up with a problem. The problem is this: no matter how you section it, you will never find the reason for its existence in itself. The reason for everything physical, however sectioned, however spliced, will ultimately point to a cause outside of itself. No matter how you section any physical quantity, you will always end up with a state of affairs where it does not explain its own existence.